Hello everyone and welcome back to the Coding Amateur. In our previous video, we installed React Router Framework and the Directus headless CMS on our local machine. In this video, we should be connecting our Directus backend to our React Router Framework frontend. However, we are going to do things a bit differently. Instead, I'm going to host my Directus backend online. I'm going to purchase a VPS. I'm going to prepare it and then install Directus on that VPS. And for the rest of this tutorial, I will be working with my online instance of Directus. Now, if you are following on and you prefer to use your Directus instance locally on your machine, you can do so. It should not affect the performance and you would still be able to follow along with the tutorial. So with that said, let's get cracking. Firstly, I need a VPS. Namecheap is my hosting provider. And just to let you guys know, Namecheap is not sponsoring this video and I'm not here recommending Namecheap. However, in my opinion, the prices are great and my experience with their customer service has also been great. So for me, this is a win-win situation. You can use whichever hosting provider you like. Okay, so going to hosting, I am going to VPS hosting. This brings us to our VPS hosting options. There are 3 pricing plans that you can choose from. For this tutorial, I'm going to choose the cheapest plan, which is the Pulsar, and I'm also going to select the monthly cycle. Now, the specs on this VPS is enough for this tutorial. If you decide you want a higher package or a more robust plan, you can select the plan that you want. But for now, I'm going to choose the Pulsar, which is $9.88 a month, and I'm going to click Get Started. Here we can customize our hosting plan. The only thing I am going to change is the operating system. I'm going to select Ubuntu. Once that is selected, I'm going to click Next. The final step would be to connect a domain name to your VPS. Now you can select new domain name and then purchase one, but I already have a domain name, so I'm going to select existing domain name. As you can see, it's thecodingamateur.com, and I'm going to click on Connect Hosting. And once I click on Connect Hosting, I will then add to cart. After connecting my domain name to my VPS, I completed my purchase off screen. One thing to note, when you complete your purchase, your VPS does not become active immediately. It's actually inactive with a yellow status. Namecheap would have sent you an email with a verification link or an activation link, which you must click. Once you click on that link, you will see a success screen. Namecheap will then configure your VPS. When that is done, they would send you an email with your login credentials. So you must wait until you have your login credentials before you can access your VPS. The email that Namecheap would have sent you should look something like this. You scroll down and you look for SSH login or root access, and you would see there your IP address, which is the IP address of your VPS, your username, which is root, and password, because this is root access. The challenge with root access is that it presents a security risk. Most hosting providers, and if I am wrong, I stand to be corrected, but most hosting providers would by default give you root access with your username being root. Most hackers know this, and so they use a technique called brute force, where because they know your username, they only have to guess your password, and that is a security risk. So to mitigate that risk, we are going to log into our VPS with our root credentials. We will create a sudo user with root level access, and once we have completed that, we will disable root access. To connect to your VPS, you will need an SSH client. You can use any SSH client you want. I am using Termius. I am going to enter the IP address that I got with my SSH login credentials, and then I'm going to click Create Host. We have successfully created a new host, and I'm going to enter my root user credentials. Now to connect. We have a new RSA fingerprint, and we're going to click Add as New. We have successfully logged in to our VPS. Our first task is to create a sudo user with root level access. Then we will delete our root user, or rather disable our root user. To begin this process, we'll have to add a user. So we're going to use the command add user. And then we're going to create the username that we want to use. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be exposed because you all are going to see my username. But that's okay. What I do advise you to do is not to share your username. So we're going to hit enter, and it's going to ask for a password. And you just create a password. And try not to use a password like 1234 or your birthday. Try to create a secure password. Usually that would be a combination of letters, numbers, and special characters. Once you're finished, hit enter, and we'll ask you to re-enter the same password. Okay, so once that is successful, it will ask for additional information which you can ignore. I'm going to ignore this part of the user creation process. Okay, so we have successfully created a user. Now we have to add this user to the sudo group. And now the users within the sudo group will have root level access. The command is usermod, M-O-D. We have a modifier. And then we will use the sudo command and our user. and we hit enter, and there. So let's test our new user. To do that, we will type su dash and the username and hit enter. And you would notice that the prompt has changed to our new sudo user. The next step is to disable the root login. To do that, we have to modify our SSH config file. So to open that file, we are going to use nano, which will be our file editor. So we must use our sudo command followed by nano, which is the file editor or text editor, and we are going to type in the directory where our SSH config file is stored. So it's etc //sshd_config. Enter. And it's going to ask us for a password. Once we enter the password, we should be able to issue a series of commands before it asks us for the password again. So once we enter the password here, it would not necessarily ask us for the password each and every time. But at some point, it will ask us for the password again. So let me type back in the password. Okay, so this is the SSHD config file, and we are looking for the line permit root login yes. So if I scroll down, right, it's here. We are going to change yes to no. Okay, the command to save a file in nano would be Control-O. And if you look at the bottom of your text editor, it is asking you file name to write. Just hit enter or return. That would save the file, and then Control-X to exit. So you have successfully disabled your root user. But for your config file, the modified config file, to be active, we have to restart the SSHD daemon. So how we do that, we use the sudo command again, systemctl restart, and then SSHD. That's it. So our modified config file is now active. After creating our sudo user, I'm going to test the root login to make sure that it has been disabled. So I would have logged out of my VPS. I'm back in to my SSH client, and I'm going to try to connect to my VPS using the root user. Okay, so the connection to my VPS has failed because the root user would have been disabled. So what I will now do, I will replace the root user login with the login credentials of the new sudo user I would have created. I am going to change the login credentials. Now let's test out our sudo user. Let's connect. We have successfully disabled our root login, and we have logged in with our sudo user credentials. Next, we will install our headless CMS Directus onto Ubuntu. See you in the next video.